The Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leisure Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, and the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast, the Parramatta Times.
G'day, it's Gus Walland here from Gotcha for Life and Triple M. I'd love to invite you along to the Mental Fitness Gym. Go to the mentalfitnessgym.org. That is a place where you can pick up some exercises to build your mental fitness, to work on that emotional muscle, those muscles in your head that are so powerful. Please come and join us at the mentalfitnessgym.org for all that stuff to build your emotional muscle and your mental fitness.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. It is the last tipping podcast of the year, as it is the Grand Final, which is being played on Sunday. Only 5 days to go. So, Ella, I've got you one more time for the tipping podcast. Are you excited for the Grand Final?
Yes.
How excited are you for the Grand Final?
Very excited.
I know you're very excited because it is the fifth time in a row that the Panthers are in the Grand Final. They are looking for a four-peat. Of course, they have gone 3 times in a row. They've won the competition. They are going for a four-peat. Now, the Melbourne Storm, they are the team that beat the Panthers in their first Grand Final back in 2020. And they may be looking to beat this run of the Panthers in their fifth Grand Final, in the Panthers' fifth Grand Final in a row. So, pretty ironic that the Storm were there at the start and they're here at this point in time. Now, these two sides have already played. Let's go back to this season. They've already played 2 times this season, and the results have both gone to the Melbourne Storm way back in round number 1. So, again, a little bit ironic or coincidental that the Storm and Panthers played in round 1 and they are playing in the last game of the year. This game was played down in Melbourne. The attendance was 20,169. Very low scoring affair on that night. It was 8-0 to the Panthers. A few players have moved on and the like from that round 1 clash. And the second time that they played was, of course, up here at Penrith at Bluebet Stadium. 20,516 attended that time. It was 24-22, 4 tries all, and there was a sin binning to big Nelson Asafa-Solomona in that game, and he is not playing in the Grand Final. A little bit more about that later on. But that was the game that Nathan Cleary also did his shoulder in that game and had a few weeks off late in that season. I think it was 3 weeks off and then played that first final, had a week off, played the Cronulla Sharks just gone in that last weekend and now playing in the Grand Final. So, let's have a look at the two sides that are lining up. And look, there are matchups aplenty across the park. Let's start with the Melbourne Storm. They are the minor premiers, so they will be wearing their home jerseys. The Panthers will be the first team in 117 years to wear a pink jersey in the Grand Final. Are you excited about that one, Ella? The Panthers are going to be wearing pink.
Cool.
Yes, the Pink Panthers, they will be on Sunday.
Yes.
So that is their away jersey as they finish in the second position on the ladder. So going through the Melbourne side, Ryan Pappenhausen, Will Warbrick, Jack Howarth, Nick Meaney, Xavier Coates, Cameron Munster, Jerome Hughes, Tui Kamakamitha, Harry Grant, Josh King, Sean Bloor, Eli Katoa, Trent Liero, and on the bench, Tyron Wishart, Christian Welsh, Alec McDonald, and also coming in for the suspended Nelson Asafa-Solomona he's played 6 games so far, so his 7th game will be in the grand final. Lazarus Va'alipu, so a massive occasion for him and his family. The extended bench of Grant Anderson, Joe Chan, Kane Bradley, Tepai Marawa, Sua Fa'alongo. Now, if we cross over to the Panthers side, now it is the same side that played the Cronulla Sharks in the prelim final. Dylan Edwards, Taruva, Isaac Tungo, Paul Alamotti, Brian To'o, Jerome Luai playing his last game for the Panthers before he moves on to the West Tigers. Nathan Cleary, Moses Leota, Mitch Kenny, James Fisher-Harris also playing his last game before moving on to the New Zealand Warriors. Luke Garner, Liam Martin, Isaiah Yeo. And on the interchange bench, Brad Schneider, Lindsay Smith, Liam Henry, Matt Eisenhuth. Now on the extended bench, Casey McLean is the 18th man. Scott Sorensen, Trent Tolau, Dane Laurie, Luke Summerton. Now, Scott Sorensen, he hasn't played in any of the finals games this season due to a hamstring injury. Now, look, I'm no super coach, and I'm not a coach of the Penrith Panthers or a first grade coach, but look, I probably just wouldn't. I mean, he's a champion player, has won premierships with Penrith before, but just with a hamstring injury, is it too much of a risk to put him in the side? The Panthers, they had a good win against the Sharks last week. Do you keep that same side as well? There is talk that if he was to come onto the interchange bench, that potentially Matt Eisenhuth may drop off that bench, which would be a shame for Matt, obviously missing out on a grand final after playing a prelim final. But look, as I said, I'm no coach. That's what I would do. I would leave the side as is. Brad Schneider, he is there in the 14 as cover for Nathan Cleary. We saw him reach for that shoulder against the Sharks game late in that game. He says the shoulder's amazing. No doubt that's just smoke and mirrors just to keep the media away and not give away too much information. That will be needled up on game day, and hopefully he'll be right to go for you Panther fans. Look, as I mentioned before, there's some great clashes about. There is Ryan Pappenhausen, Dylan Edwards. The wingers are a great combination for both sides and will be quite interesting. Warbrick and Coates, the taller of the wingers. Taruva and To'o are smaller wingers, so expect a few high crossover kicks, I would imagine. The Battle of the Halves is amazing. Cameron Munster, Jerome Hughes, who is favoured to win the Dally M Medal Player of the Year. It is looking like he may get that medal victory. That will be, at the time of this podcast coming out, it will come out later, Tuesday night, but the Dally M's are on Wednesday night, so we'll know that by grand final time. Jerome Luai, Nathan Cleary, look, we all know what those two can do. They are premiership winners. Nathan Cleary had an absolute blinder. Some are saying that he is the best in the game, the best that the game will ever see, but he certainly knows how to play in these big games. 40-20 last week changed the game in favour of the Panthers, and then a try assist above him as well. A try assist for him to Paul Alamotti, who scored. The forward battle, two front rowers, Tui Kamikamitha and Josh King. Look, they probably have got Moses Leota and James Fisher-Harris for the Panthers over the top of them. I guess the Bash brothers, but they are no slouches in their positions. But Harry Grant against Mitch Kenny, that'll be a good battle as well. And probably the back row, especially Liam Martin, Isaiah Yeo, probably a little bit more experienced than the Melbourne back row of Sean Bloor, Eli Katoa and Trent Liero. But look, Tyrone Wishart on the interchange bench, he is Mr. Fix-It. He can play anywhere in the back line, can probably even play hooker as well, can probably put him in lock as well if need be. Christian Welsh, the veteran, he won't mind me saying that, I hope. He is on the interchange bench, lots of experience there as well. So probably the Melbourne interchange bench is probably a little bit better than the Panthers one, but Lindsay Smith, he's been killing it. Liam Henry, he made an impact last week against the Sharks as well. Look, this one will be a difficult one. There will be a grand final preview coming out later on in the week, hopefully with premiership winning coach Shane Flanagan from the Cronulla Sharks back in 2016, current Dragons first grade coach. He has actually coached the Dragons this season to beat both the Panthers and Storm, so it'll be interesting to get his opinion about these two sides and about this game. So that will be a grand final preview coming out a little bit later on in the week, so stay tuned for that one. Look, I don't know, this could be a flip of the coin, to be honest, as to who will win this game. I think Melbourne will go in as slight favourites, only because they were minor premiers. They have had the wood over the Panthers this season anyway in regular season games. But look, I mean, that was regular season games. The Panthers certainly know how to play these big games. That is for sure. Look, lately, the last 5 games, the Melbourne Storm won 4, lost to the Cowboys. The Panthers, the same as well. They lost to the Raiders earlier on in the season, 22 points to 18. That was their last loss of the year. Pretty evenly matched. The Melbourne Storm have scored more points than the Panthers, and they've also let in more points than the Panthers as well, the Panthers being the best defensive team. So, look, this game is a little bit of a toss of the coin. The Melbourne Storm are slight favourites. Ella, is there any point in asking you who you're going to tip? Because I think I know who you are going to tip, actually.
Yeah, I think you do know.
I think the listeners are going to know as well, because if they've
because
been...
I've tipped them a lot.
That's
before,
right.
Over the other teams.
That's right. So, just for the record, who are you going to tip then?
We all know that it's Panthers.
Okay, yes. Look, Panthers for yourself. Look, for the fun of the podcast, so I think I'll tip the Melbourne Storm. But
Really?
It's going to be a close game. It might be like the last time they did play, 24-22, 24-20. It could even be less than that. So it's going to be very close. It could be a field goal that decides this game. So I'm going to tip the Melbourne Storm. Ella's got the Panthers.
Of course.
That's right. Well, look, this podcast is only been a little bit of a short one, but look, I'll also talk about the Roosters and Sharks in the NRLW Grand Final as well. This game will be played on Sunday at 3:55 p.m. before the men's game. And it is between the Roosters and the Sharks. Now, the Sharks had a great win against the Broncos last week up there in Queensland to get their Grand Final spot. The Roosters beat two-time premiers, the Newcastle Knights. The Roosters go into this game favourites. Now, if you haven't already caught it, I did chat a little bit about this game coming up with Kiana Takarangi in the NRLW Weekly Wrap podcast, which is out now. But look, there is a star-studded side for this Roosters side, especially the centre combination of Jessica Sergis and Isabel Kelly, the captain. They are both coming back from injury. Well, Isabel, she played in the last round and then played in the final as well, but Jessica came back from injury successfully last week up against Tiana Penatani, the captain of the Cronulla Sharks, and Anessa Biddle as well in the centres, who was a machine in both attack and defence. The second rower, Olivia Koenig, she's been playing really well. Amber Hall, she can get a try close to the line. Definitely Millie Elliott in the front row for the Roosters. Keely Davis at hooker. Holly Wheeler comes back for the Sharks after suspension, which puts Tegan Dimmick back to the interchange bench in that number 17 jersey. A lot of responsibility to be on Taylor Preston, the halfback of the Cronulla Sharks, played in the 2022 Grand Final for the Parramatta Eels. Georgia Hannaway as well has impressed. So look, there's some great matchups across the park, but the fullback one as well, Samantha Bremner for the Roosters, Emma Tonegado for the Sharks. Sam Bremner has done everything in the game. She wants to win the premiership in the NRLW. And look, Emma Tonegado, she would love to be a part of the first ever Cronulla Sharks winning grand final team in the NRLW. They've only been in the competition for 2 years, and this is their first finals campaign and their first grand final. Now, earlier on in the season, the Roosters did smash the Sharks in their losing streak, 3-game losing streak, 40 points to 0. I don't think they will look. They'll obviously look at that one and I guess review that one where they went wrong, but they will take confidence out of beating the Broncos up there when the Broncos were heavy favourites. So, Ella, in the women's game, women's grand final,
Yeah.
Roosters or Sharks? Who are you going to go for in that one?
I think I'm going to go for the Roosters in this one.
Okay, yes. So I think you're right there. Look, I think the Sharks are definitely up against it. The Roosters did finish in second spot, so I think I might go for the Roosters as well.
Okay.
So there you go. We agree in the NRLW. And
But
we're
not in the actual NRL, do
No,
we?
we're splitting that one, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens on there. But look, it's going to be a great day, grand final day. It always is. Let us know your tips as well and your thoughts about what's going to happen in both the NRL and the NRLW. It's always a great day, grand final day. There is the Interstate Challenge as well being played before the NRLW, so lots of football happening on Sunday. Let me know also what you do on grand final day if you don't go to the game. Do you have a barbecue? What's your choice of food? Is it pizzas? Is it hot dogs? Whatever. How do you celebrate grand final day? Let me know how you do that one as well. So thank you very much, Ella, for joining me the last few weeks of the NRL and NRLW season. Have you had fun?
Yeah.
Shall we do
It's
it all?
a shame that it's coming to an end.
I know, all good things must come to an end, unfortunately, but we'll come back bigger and better next season. You want to do it again next year?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been very fun.
Well, what we might actually do is we might try and set up a tipping competition and we'll tip up against each other and see how we go, and we'll do the podcast against each other as well. So thank you very much for joining me for those times.
You're welcome.
I'm sure the listeners really enjoyed it.
I hope they did.
Yeah, got some great feedback come through. So look, enjoy your grand final weekend, grand final day, and as I said, there will be a grand final preview of the NRL coming out later on in the week as well, and then obviously a review. Look, there might be a special guest interview as well coming out through the week, so stay tuned to the Instagram page for that one. Thank you very much for listening. Now, look, I know I always say this, but
Yes, I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I know. They're not playing, but I've got to still show my support. I wish they were playing in the grand final, but go Para.
Hello, Paracave podcast listeners. My name is Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty and long-term sponsor of the Paracave podcast. If you're looking to sell your property or buy, or just curious to know what your property is worth in today's market, give me a call today on 0421 588 445.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. See you next time.